Hello guys. Welcome to my channel. Hope you like it and enjoy it. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. Somali history. Early months of the Union. Although unified as a single nation at independence, the South and the North were, from an institutional perspective, two separate countries. Italy and the United Kingdom had left the two with separate administrative, legal, and education systems in which affairs were conducted according to different procedures and in different languages. Janina Dill, an associate professor of U.S. foreign policy, states, "While British rule in the North allowed for the preservation of traditional structures of self-governance, Italian colonialism in the South resulted in the erosion of traditional forms of political organization and centralized colonial administration." In early 1962, GSL leader Haji Muhammad Hussein, seeking in part to exploit northern dissatisfaction, attempted to form an amalgamated party, known as the Somali Democratic Union, SDU. It enrolled northern elements, some of which were displeased with the northern SNL representatives in the coalition government. Hussein's attempt failed in May 1962, however. Eagle and another northern SNL minister resigned from the cabinet and took many SNL followers with them into a new party, the Somali National Congress, SNC, which won widespread northern support. The new party also gained support in the South, when it was joined by an SYL faction composed predominantly of Hawi. This move gave the country three truly national political parties and further served to blur North-South differences. Northern misgivings about being too tightly harnessed to the South were demonstrated by the voting pattern in the June 1961 referendum on the Constitution, which was in effect Somalia's first national election. Although the draft was overwhelmingly approved in the South, it was supported by less than 50% of the northern electorate. Dissatisfaction at the distribution of power among the clan families and between the two regions boiled over in December 1961, when a group of British-trained junior army officers in the North rebelled in reaction to the posting of higher-ranking Southern officers, who had been trained by the Italians for police duties, to command their units. The ringleaders urged a separation of North and South. Northern non-commissioned officers arrested the rebels, but discontent in the North persisted. By the time Somalia gained its independence in 1960, Aden Ade had attained widespread prominence as a nationalist figure. In short order, he was elected the country's first president, a position he would assume from 1960 to 1967. In the 1967 presidential election, Aden Ade was defeated by Abdirashid Ali Shermarke, his former prime minister. His term as president ended on July 6, 1967. Aden Ade accepted the loss graciously, making history as the first head of state in Africa, excluding Liberia, to peacefully hand over power to a democratically elected successor. After his release, Aden spent the better part of his later years on his farm in Janail, in southern Somalia. On May 22, 2007, it was erroneously reported that he had died in a hospital in Nairobi, Kenya. He was, however, in critical condition and on life support. Aden Ade died in hospital on June 8, 2007, at the age of 98. The most important political issue in post-independence Somali politics was the unification of all areas traditionally inhabited by ethnic Somalis into one country, a concept identified as Greater Somalia. See also Somali nationalism. Politicians assumed that this issue dominated popular opinion, and that any government would fall if it did not demonstrate a militant attitude toward neighboring countries occupying Somali territory. Preoccupation with Greater Somalia shaped the character of the country's newly formed institutions, and led to the buildup of the Somali military and, ultimately, to the war with Ethiopia and fighting in the northern frontier district in Kenya. By law, the exact size of the National Assembly was not established in order to facilitate the inclusion of representatives of the contested areas after unification. The national flag also featured a five-pointed star, whose points represented areas claimed as part of the Somali nation: the former Italian Somaliland and British Somaliland, the Ogaden, French Somaliland, and the Northern Frontier District. Moreover, the preamble to the Constitution approved in 1961 included the statement, "The Somali Republic promotes by legal and peaceful means the union of the territories." The Constitution also provided that all ethnic Somalis, no matter where they resided, were citizens of the Republic. The Somalis did not claim sovereignty over adjacent territories, but rather demanded that Somalis living in them be granted the right to self-determination. Somali leaders asserted that they would be satisfied only when their fellow Somalis outside the republic had the opportunity to decide for themselves what their status would be. The new president nominated as Prime Minister Mohammed Haji Ibrahim Eagle, who raised cabinet membership from 13 to 15 members and included representatives of every major clan family, as well as some members of the rival Somali National Congress. In August 1967, the National Assembly confirmed his appointment without serious opposition. Although the new prime minister had supported Shermarke in the presidential election, he was a northerner and had led a 1962 defection of the Northern SNL Assembly members from the government. He had also been closely involved in the founding of the SNC, but, with many other northern members of that group, had rejoined the SYL after the 1964 elections. A more important difference between Shermarke and Eagle, other than their past affiliations, was the new prime minister's moderate position on pan-Somali issues and his desire for improved relations with other African countries in these areas. He was allied with the modernists in the government, parliament, and administration who favored redirecting the nation's energies from confrontation with its neighbors to combating social and economic ills. Although many of his domestic policies seemed more in line with those of the previous administration, Eagle continued to hold the confidence of both Shermarke and the National Assembly during the 18 months preceding the March 1969 national elections. The March 1969 elections were the first to combine voting for municipal and National Assembly posts. 64 parties contested the elections. Only the SYL, however, presented candidates in every election district, in many cases without opposition. 8 other parties presented lists of candidates for national offices in most districts. Of the remaining 55 parties, only 24 gained representation in the assembly, but all of these were disbanded almost immediately when their 50 members joined the SYL. Both the plethora of parties and the defection to the majority party were typical of Somali parliamentary elections. To register for elective office, a candidate merely needed either the support of 500 voters or the sponsorship of his clan, expressed through a vote of its traditional assembly. After registering, the office seeker then attempted to become the official candidate of a political party. Failing this, he would remain on the ballot as an individual contestant. Voting was by party list, which could make a candidate a one-person party. This practice explained not only the proliferation of small parties, but also the transient nature of party support. Many candidates affiliated with a major party only long enough to use its symbol in the election campaign and, if elected, abandoned it for the winning side as soon as the National Assembly met. Thus, by the end of May 1969, the SYL parliamentary cohort had swelled from 73 to 109. In addition, the 11 SNC members had formed a coalition with the SYL, which held 120 of the 123 seats in the National Assembly. A few of these 120 left the SYL after the composition of Eagle's cabinet became clear and after the announcement of his program, both of which were bound to displease some who had joined only to be on the winning side. Offered a huge list of candidates. The almost 900,000 voters in 1969 took delight in defeating incumbents. Of the incumbent deputies, 77 out of 123 were not returned, including 8 out of 18 members of the previous cabinet, but these figures did not unequivocally demonstrate dissatisfaction with the government. Statistically, they were nearly identical with the results of the 1964 election, and, given the profusion of parties and the system of proportional representation, a clear sense of public opinion could not be obtained solely on the basis of the election results. The fact that a single party, the SYL, dominated the field implied neither stability nor solidarity. Anthropologist Johan M. Lewis has noted that the SYL government was a very heterogeneous group with diverging personal and lineage interests. Candidates who had lost seats in the assembly, and those who had supported them were frustrated and angry. A number of charges were made of government election fraud, at least some firmly founded. Discontent was exacerbated when the Supreme Court, under its newly appointed president, declined to accept jurisdiction over election petitions, although it had accepted such jurisdiction on an earlier occasion. Neither the president nor the prime minister seemed particularly concerned about official corruption and nepotism. Although these practices were conceivably normal in a society based on kinship, some were bitter over their prevalence in the National Assembly, where it seemed that deputies ignored their constituents in trading votes for personal gain. Among those most dissatisfied with the government were intellectuals and members of the armed forces and police. General Mohammad Abshir Muse, the chief of police, had resigned just before the elections after refusing to permit police vehicles to transport SYL voters to the polls. Of these dissatisfied groups, the most significant element was the military, which since 1961 had remained outside politics. It had done so partly because the government had not called upon it for support and partly because, unlike most other African armed forces, the Somali National Army had a genuine external mission in which it was supported by all Somalis, that of protecting the borders with Ethiopia and Kenya. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more history.